The conspiracy behind the killings in Ethiopia and the threats to the American Constitution. In any modern society, an ego, a puffed up arrogance, a lie, a clique, conspiracy, and hatred are dangerous. When one entertains them in a larger scale, it creates distress, division, confusion, grievance, aggression, and disaster. The end result is always not so good. Let me take you virtually to the continent of Africa, one of the sub-Saharan countries in the Horn of Africa called Ethiopia, with the intention to guide you to the destination called the truth, and to manage this truth well, because it will clear the storyline you have been told in the narratives you hold. It's known the power of truth sustains against the harshest of any historical challenge in moments in the face of the earth. Truth finally wins, and truth sets people's mind free, because truth in its authenticity, it is that good. And it's that powerful to impact, to change, and to set one's own mind, soul, and body free. Free from the lies, free from the bias, and free from all those narratives that we have accepted them as truths. Hope the truths you hear in this information create an experiential memory as you try to dig and see the beauty that stands tall, unfolds in your trip, since you are landing now to explore for yourself and have an adventure. What is there to see at the destination management pillar called the truth? My country, Ethiopia, is going through a turmoil, unrest, chaos, and a large scale of human rights abuse, which now turned into a war. But few or none understood the situation. Why? Let me be the storyteller to answer to the whys. The only venue that leads in the process to the destination management pillar that unfolds what is in there, the truth. A political shift happened in Ethiopia back in August 30, 2017, when the director of the US aid Mark Green landed in the territory of Ethiopia. The reason behind the puzzle for the ongoing killing that goes from bad to worse for the last 3 consecutive years in Ethiopia, that escalates during the past few months to mass genocides and massacres, innocent civilians by the illegitimate leader of the country, Abiy Ahmed, is all about the dark vision of conspiracy that aims to take over our country, Ethiopia, under colonialism, to exploit all our untapped natural resources, so that those conspiracy illegal groups dreams to get rich and prosper, as well as for them to become powerful, like again to build empire for centuries to come, will be fulfilled. This sadly but truly has a high potential similarity and a trade for what is to come, as it's already hovering to attack American democracy and its constitution. The American government is the oldest continuing form of government that has not undergone a significant change in its structure. The question is, will it stand the test of time? I will explain my concern on the existing threat to American democracy by putting two and two together for you to connect the dots, so that you will be able to answer to the whys and see the bigger picture for yourself. Why there is a threat to American democracy, and to understand the situation, so that on going forward to tackle the danger that's hovering in the most effective way and prevent it from happening, if not to make the damage less. Remember, experience is the best teacher. Long time ago, my dad being an MP from the previous administrations into prison. In addition to that, with a long history of family political activism, whose mother, aunt, and uncles were imprisoned and or murdered for opposing communism, and a dictator called Mengistu Haile Mariam of Ethiopia. I have a vivid memory as a toddler, the anguished cry of a renowned high school teacher who has been tied upside down inside a metal bar and beaten up his bare foot that dislocated his bones for good. I watched that at a glance, since my siblings and I, at the early age of our lives, were in the prison, in the middle of an adults, where my mom and my aunt was held, while my dad was in different prison facility. Since both our parents were in prison at the same time, nobody was there to look after us. That was the only option available, to be the youngest in the prison until situation forced for further arrangements of guardianship. As my mom and my auntie all of a sudden has been taken to a more tighter and secure prison facility, waiting for their execution. Not knowing what was going on, that our mom and auntie has been taken away from us, while we were left behind in the facility on our own. We were crying and fighting with the securities there, using our petty powerlessness that we had within us, and tried to sneak out from prison as tiny prison breakers squad, who were a good team hoping to run to the roads that might have taken us to connect with our mom and auntie. In that stranger world of both adult men and women prisoners packed in the same rooms, and the abandonment hard to understand for our undeveloped mind, all of the confusions that runs in our mind, the sad face we saw in the adults when they approached to cheer us up, yet the sad in their face were dominant, not knowing the truths they had known. Every face we scanned and recorded exhibits sadness than comfort that made our world the crossroad of, to be at the crossroad of confusion. Mind you, those people have their own sadness and fear for the uncertainty where their lives fit in as a prisoner. They were so nice to us and gave us their meals and tried to feed us. However, my siblings and I remained conspicuously to be on the same page that we had lost our appetite. All what we cared about was not to be confined there and be with our mom. The whole our limitations and confusion that accompanied our pain of missing our family, but couldn't reach out to them and touch that they were there, is one of its kind that we don't want any child to experience ever. The next day, seeing our situation, the wife of the school teacher who has been tortured in his feet came to visit him with a meal, since the facility didn't provide meal for the prisoners. Then after she finished, she went to the shift security guard who can discharge inmates like us. She took a responsibility to be our guardian. Unfortunately, our God-sent angel has been granted to bail us out, and just like that, my siblings and I were set free from the communist prison facility. This incredible mom took us all to her house and made us like we are home. We are at home, as she started taking care of us with her own kids, as if we are all a bunch of hers. The saddest part was this mom were freshly grieving for her firstborn son who has been assassinated on the street by the communists. So not only she supported her husband who were at prison, but she had to grieve for her loss and maintain her household to look after her 3 grown-up children. It's on top of those challenges in her own world that she hasn't hesitated to initiate and took the responsibility that we are safe, fed, free from their prison and nurtured. Her name is accurate. It means she respects. Bless her heart, she respected us, that we matter and care for us, to make our misery bearable. The situation in Ethiopia was that bad, that knocks every household. But timing for young parents as well as for parents who had young children. Since the communists were anti-young and anti-intellectuals. My mom, with my aunt, has been sentenced to death. The people who knew my mom, who knew her, had some kind of power in the position at that time, had fought a long fight for my mom because of us. My siblings and I were under 6 years old. People couldn't complain what our fate will be if the decision to my mom holds higher official false true, because they were sentenced for execution. Her official man, even during communist, has been found to have a loving heart for others and extend grace, as he was among others who fought for my mom in their decision process to execute or not to execute her. It took a while, but finally, several months later, my mom being released, and we finally reunited with our mom. Thanks to our men and women who use their conscious mind and heart to extend mercy and grace, support and care, even if the time was not an easy one for them as well, with all heartbreaking situation in Ethiopia. Anyways, thanks to them, the decision reversed and my mom had released and be united again. It's no important thing for a young man to see her children well nurtured and pampered, to make the journey in her absence a God's intervention one that makes you in awe, to have an attitude of gratitude for the help that was there out of the blue for us, because He, God Almighty, cares. We never forget that. A few weeks apart, a new law has been declared and released that denounced the death sentence. As a result of that, my aunt was lucky to have spared her life, though she had served a long 5 years imprisonment. By then, our dad has been already released. Enough about family prison history or political activism. It is to say, we have seen, we have been there, the damage a dictator can do to a human soul. We will rise up above our problems to appreciate and enjoy the gift of life and to care for others. Such an experience awakens you early on, and that definitely makes someone matured early on. And remember every detail, the whole situation back then, but it never had bothered me at all. Nevertheless, it is an experience that made me understand the relationship of oppression and dictatorship that threatens your freedom, if it exists at all in the first place. Threatens your voice, your saying, your idea, your creativity. It was during those times the Ethiopian Red Terror happened that massacred so many young Ethiopian lives, together with that of the intellectuals in the military and those who have been the high officials in the government by then. It's during those times that the late Ethiopian Prime Minister and our true leader, Meles Zenawi, dropped his education from medical school in the university and joined a rebel force in the north of Ethiopia and Tigray. It was just after all these killings during this Red Terror was a time that shattered the young Ethiopians' hope for a long time. Until in 1991, those rebels, the TPLF, through the communist regime, after a 17 years long battle in the war, dictators rise up anytime, and dictators are oppressors, stealers of joy, freedom, the rights of people. We have been there. We have seen that. That's our experience. What's hovering right now in the US Constitution is a sign of dictatorship. A dictator works only for its own, to oppress and suppress for the sake of his own or her own rising up to the power. In the process, a lot of destruction, a lot of civilian lives is at stake.